Federal government begins the drafting of 5-year strategic defense plan for security.
Abel Eniton appointed new head of Federal Civil Service.
Four platforms unveiled to empower 4.5 million Nigerian women financially.
On Good Morning Nigeria today, we focus attention on a decade of rebuilding Nigeria's northeast.
The rebuilding of Nigeria's northeast is now at a critical point.
Absolutely. And it's been 10 years since Boko Haram insurgency began, and the region has traveled a long, long road from devastation and mass displacement towards reconstruction, recovery, and rehabilitation.
Roads have been rebuilt, schools and health facilities restored, homes reconstructed, and communities reconnected.
But the real measure of recovery would lie beyond the structures we can see, touch, and feel. Are people returning to productive lives, and are farmers back on their various communities or land?
Yeah, those are critical questions, Claire. Are businesses growing as well? Are young people finding opportunities, and families living with the security and confidence to plan for the future?
Well, again, questions that are particularly important to now, because these rebuilding efforts have moved beyond emergency response.
The establishment of the Northeast Development Commission in 2017 created a dedicated institutional framework for rehabilitation, reconstruction, resettlement, and development.
And in 2020, precisely, the Northeast Stabilization and Development Master Plan set out a 10-year program running to 2030 with interventions spanning infrastructure, agriculture, education, healthcare, enterprise, industrialization, trade, and most importantly, peace building.
We are now in 2026, the opening year of the plan's final phase. So, the issue before us is no longer simply what has been reconstructed, but whether the foundations laid are strong enough to deliver lasting prosperity.
Absolutely, and that distinction matters. A rebuilt road, for instance, is very important, no doubt. But the real value would lie in measuring the economic activity it has been able to enable.
A reconstructed school matters when children can attend and learn. A rebuilt market matters when traders can return to business. And resettlement becomes meaningful when families can live securely and earn sustainable incomes.
And that is very fundamental. So more than 10 years now after the conflict began, how far has the Northeast truly come? And what has worked, what remains unfinished, and what must change before 2030?
So today, our panel of experts will take a closer look at how far Nigeria has come in rebuilding the Northeast. Thank you for joining us. This is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. I am Ademola Adeoye.
And I'm Claire Adelabu Abdurazak, welcoming you as well to Thursday's episode of the program. As always, newspaper review will be coming very shortly, but not before the news. And we join Comfort Amodu in the newsroom for the latest stories trending. Hello, Comfort. Good morning to you.
Morning, Claire and Ademola. Thank you very much for joining us on the news highlight. We'll begin with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's appointment of Abel Olumuyiwa Enitan as the head of the civil service of the Federation effective August 27. 2026. He succeeds Didi Esther Watson Jack, who will retire from the Federal Civil Service upon attaining the statutory retirement age of 60. In a statement signed by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga Abel Olumuyiwa Enitan is set to have served as Permanent Secretary for 7 years and 7 months, working at the Ministry of Police Affairs, the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, and the Office of the Vice President. He is currently the Permanent Secretary in the Federal Ministry of Education, and President Bola Tinubu has charged the incoming Head of Civil Service of the Federation to consolidate the reforms and innovations already underway, deepen professionalism and efficiency across the service, and build a more effective and responsive civil service capable of delivering on the administration's renewed hope agenda. The Federal Executive Council has approved the establishment of a drafting committee for a 5-year strategic defense plan towards a sustainable solution to the security challenges in Nigeria. And this is one of the major outcomes of the Council's meeting on Wednesday.
The President also directed, and this was also approved by FEC, that all unclaimed dividends from the Capital Market Trust Fund and the Dormant Account Trust Fund, those unclaimed dividends should also be directed to NER Fund, so that NER Fund will be financially buoyant to meet its growing obligations.
On women inclusion, Vice President Kashim Shettima says Nigerians' ambition to build a $1 trillion economy cannot be achieved without the full participation of women, as the federal government unveils 4 strategic platforms to bridge the gender gap in financial inclusion drive. He stated this during the 2nd National Gender Inclusion Conference tagged She's Included 2026, held at the banquet hall of the Presidential Villa. The conference, organized by the Presidential Committee on Economic Inclusion in the Office of the Vice President, with the team Designing for Delivery, from financial inclusion to economic transformation for the Nigerian woman.
To recognize collateral, and women hold less of it and far more of character.
Let us build a Nigeria in which no woman is excluded from the opportunity to contribute, participate, and benefit from our nation's prosperity.
The federal government has performed the groundbreaking ceremony for the renewed Hope Civil Servants Estate in Dukwa Gwagwalada Area Council of the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, to provide decent and affordable houses for Nigerian workers.
This estate, to my mind, represents a promise of a better future for civil servants and their families.
The federal government says its ongoing reforms and executive orders in the oil and gas sector are deliberate steps towards promoting industrial stability, attracting investment, and creating a more conducive working environment for workers. The Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Henekin Lokbobiri, stated this at the opening of the 2026 Pengasan Energy and Labour Summit.
A genuine skill gap exists. However, expatriate quota must never become a mechanism for replacing qualified Nigerians with foreign personnel in jobs for which local capacity exists.
The government is prepared to act through executive orders with a view to solving them so that we can achieve the intendment of the PIA.
In other news, another 83 Nigerians have returned home from South Africa, and this comes amid concerns over anti-foreigner protests in that country in recent months. A statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs says the returnees arrived at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos aboard a South African Airways flight from Johannesburg. The ministry clarified that they were accompanied by 2 officials from the Consulate General of Nigeria in Johannesburg. Receiving them on behalf of the federal government was the Director of the African Affairs Department, Ambassador Haruna Ali Gombe. And the ministry noted that the repatriation was made possible through flight tickets sponsored by kind-hearted private individuals after documentation and profiling by relevant government agencies. The returnees will be reunited with their families. And the statement concluded with federal government reaffirming its commitment to the welfare and safe return of all Nigerians abroad, and express appreciation to the Nigerian mission in South Africa, the sponsors, and all agencies involved. That's the news at this time. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Ademola and Claire after this commercial break. Good morning.
It starts with a breath, a moment of quiet. For 50 years, we have been the backdrop to your greatest stories. The deals that changed your life. The nights you felt the music in your chest. You didn't just book a room. You found a sanctuary in the center of the storm. Lagos moves at its own pace. But here, it moves at yours.
Stories living in the walls. Echo hotels and suites grew stronger.
5 decades, millions of memories, one home. Echo Hotels and Suites, 50 years of more.
Every morning is a good time to show love in the way that matters. And showing love begins with breakfast, the first gift of the day to you and your loved ones. Not just any breakfast, but one made with peak milk, because it contains vitamins, proteins, and calcium to keep you nourished and ready for the day. Breakfast is love. Show it every morning with the nourishing goodness of Peak evaporated milk.
Peak. Reach for your peak.
Soft life isn't luck. It's a recipe. Hair growth, itchy scalp relief, dandruff control, anti-breakage. Every jar made to give your hair exactly what it needs. No stress, no guessing. Just soft, easy hair every day. So yeah, be a chef. And when you get it right, it's effortless.
TerraCube. Unwrap joy. Unleash taste.
Every great stew comes down to one moment. The moment that decides everything. When the tomato paste meets the oil, fries well, blooms deep red color, and gives off rich aroma. And when it blends well with everything else in the pot, I see it all coming together. New Tasty Tom fries well, blends well, shines in the moment.
My love, you shine so bright.
Our bodies get serums, washes, lotions, cleansers, scrubs, but underarms only get deodorant? That's why our new breakthrough formula contains pure hyaluron and vitamin C to deeply care for your underarms for a softer and even skin tone in 2 weeks. With 72 hours sweat and odor protection, try the new Nivea Derma Control Natural Tone, because your underarms deserve more. Nivea is for skin.
Why does responsible communication matter in today's world? In a time of misinformation and division, responsible communication is no longer optional, it is leadership. Responsible communication is leadership in action. Join global voices shaping the future of trust, ethics, and influence.
All right, welcome back to the program. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service, your daily morning breakfast show. All right, let's take a look at today's newspaper review.
Well, our newspaper reviewer is here. Chooks.
Hello.
The boy.
Demo, how are you doing? Always good to see you. Claire, stop muttering in the studio.
No.
You must power blue 4 so that our viewer
No,
would comprehend everything.
Chukwudi, did you try to check out?
I'll look it up.
Yes,
You say he works for Sky.
Yes, I think you should check it out. Good morning and welcome.
Yes,
all right,
thank
let's
you.
quickly begin with this Nigeria newspaper. And the lead story says Nigeria confronts rising mental health crisis. And in fact, very alarming statistics here. Health Minister Party cites over 7,000 suicide deaths annually, targets 15% cut in figures, criminalizing suicide attempts as reform seeks to replace punishment with care. Other stories, FCT Minister cracked down on illegal green area car lots. It's on page 7. And regional leaders demand 15 region federation to reshape Nigeria. And the other story at the foot of the paper, insecurity, FG orders 5-year threat assessment defense plan. Homeland Security Advisor leads NSA Ribadu defense security chiefs, others in high power team. And the icing on the cake this morning is a story just on the earpiece there, besides the name tag there. $1 trillion economy impossible without women. All right. I also have the leadership newspaper here with me, and I'll quickly look at the front page of the leadership, and it says police arrest 40 for alleged robbery kidnapping in Abuja. It's on page 8. And you see a picture story there signaling commencement of the 2027 electioneering campaign. Members of PBAT's door-to-door movement during the Solidarity rally in support of Mr. President and Vice President Kashim Shettima. This picture is in Kaduna, and it happened yesterday. Okay, a look above the nameplate now. Stopping financial crime in milliseconds. Okay, that's an editorial. Kano youths burn Kwankwasia style cabs over Kwankwasia's support for Obi. I think that's the major story on the front page there. Okay. Demola.
All right, thank you, Claire. Let's look at the Blueprint newspaper. And just above that nameplate of the Blueprint, Tinubu to VCs, your varsities must respond to changing labor market needs. The details of the story can be found on page 14. Abel Enito replaces Didi Walson Jack. And we have agriculture credit hits 3.86 trillion as banks cut oil manufacturing lending. Details on page 20. Joshua Fury fight may hold in New York, and that's page 32. And Tinubu boost Nel Fund with EFCC recovered loot on claimed dividends and dormant funds. That's the major headline of the Blueprint. Alausa explains affected assets. FEC approves 155.3 billion naira for National Library. Details of that front page story is on page 8. Hoodlums attack Adeleke's convoy. Governor gets INEC certificate of return. Details on page 8. Fuel subsidy removal. Forex reform saved Nigeria 15.8 trillion naira in 30 months. Coming from the Minister of Finance, Oyedele. Proceeds redirected to profitable investment, says Idris. Tunga Madaki Zuba Road, 9 orders ready before 2027 elections. Come from the FCT Minister, Wike. DRC Ebola outbreak remains far from control. WHO, details on page 6. Only 59 CASU staff resigned since 2024, not 200. The clarification from Kaduna State Government. Details on page 15. Nigeria's can't build 1 trillion economy without women participation. That's Shatima, and I know that Claire will support that clearly.
Well,
anyway.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned me, but I'm also more elated that that statement is not coming from a woman.
Yeah.
It's coming from the vice president.
Yeah.
Yes, himself. And I mean, isn't it obvious?
It is. We need women.
You know, the thing is, the things we say in Africa sometimes reflect where we are not in terms of advanced thinking. What he has said has been taken for granted in other economies in the world already. It's no longer a statement anyone needs to make. But it happens that this is the center of denial of opportunity to women. I'm talking about Africa, not just Nigeria, please. So that is why we need to say certain things. Otherwise, the likes of Chukwudi will tell you that a woman is home. You're home. Now, woman, get up. If you don't learn to become an effective woman rapper, you won't be a happy husband and father. When a man learns to build that into his mentality, he becomes a happier human being. I'm talking from experience. Don't clap for me. But we need to say that from time to time. Woman alive.
You know,
please, my dear.
The civil society groups would tell you the equal representation, you know,
yes,
in political, in democratic representation for women.
Yes.
The advocates would also tell you that because of financial exclusion for women are unable to vie for, you know, certain positions. And that is the reason why women are agitating for special seats reservation. You know, because women don't have that financial capacity to compete with the men when it comes to, you know, political representation. So, but this is coming. This is good. The statistics that we have here said only 47% of Nigerian women, you know, had formal financial accounts compared with 58% for men. And I'm saying that if this data is accurate, then the gap isn't that much.
Yes.
Because the civil society people tell you this is even not accurate.
I hope we reserve full discussions on matters like this. Very important. Lifestyle is more interesting than any other thing on TV and radio. Good.
Thank you.
You have gone to the very easy example. Claire, a married woman who wants to be governor requires that you, the party people, locate your meetings at holier hours of the day instead of 2 a.m. Chuku did not go green making wife they go meeting for 2 a.m. because he won't be governor.
No,
so there are so many harmful practices against. When I come here and talk about Africa, you don't understand. I'm doing a book on it.
But you know, it's a cultural thing.
It's a cultural thing, my brother.
But
part of Africa's problem is those blemishes that come from its culture.
Would it
Yet
change?
we are parading it like tolo tolo.
Would things change if women had financial power?
Yes.
I think that this 2 a.m. thing you're talking about,
yes,
will change because women will now have capacity, both, you know, what do you call it, intelligent capacity and financial capacity.
Don't you think they have intelligence capacity?
No,
they do have.
By the way, I must confess I didn't know how important my wife was till she became unwell.
You know. So
may God bless women.
Anyway, 1 trillion
let's look at something.
No. There's something we must look at.
Tinubu boast
good money, bad money chasing good.
Yes,
I like that.
That's Tinubu.
God bless you.
Boast Nel Fund with EFCC recovered.
You know, in those days,
unclaimed dividends, dormant funds.
In those days, in my pants and short knickers, you know, shorts, torn at several points now. You see patches, you know. We will go to farm after school, and you see on some of these lorries coming from Ibadan to Enugu, honesty is the best policy. Save me, oh God. Necessity is the mother of invention. You don't see them for any lorry again. You can't see them anymore. Morals decayed. Morals fell flat on their back. This is a strong statement. It tells you that it is good to be good and it is bad to be bad. Good channeling of illicit funds. That's the right word. I've been looking for that. To chase God. One of the things I tell people, fine, you could say Tinubu does not work. As a journalist, I don't have to have a position. But if NEL fund were not working, Nigerian students must have shouted themselves hoarse about it by now.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that.
Do you understand that?
Yes, I was going to say
clinical,
during the tenure of the immediate past president, may God bless his soul, President Muhammadu Buhari, Ministry of Transport was adjudged one of the best working ministries.
Okay.
Of course, because of the work done, the rail infrastructure and all that. I think NEL Fund is one of the, very active agencies of this administration.
I think so too.
Because apart from what you see, there is a dashboard. The MD of NEL Fund ensures that there is a WhatsApp platform, there is a dashboard, every amount disbursed to all the institutions, the exact amount, the number of students is seen. So
transparency.
Accountability and transparency.
That's it.
So there is also accountability and transparency in the disbursement of the funds that is allocated to NEL Fund.
It tells you that Africa's backwardness is artificial. Africa can work.
Yes, but that's why
all we need to do is to repeat these things in other sectors.
That's why they talk about political will.
Men of integrity.
Thank you. Credibility. The incumbent matters. The reputation, character of the incumbent matters. When Murray Bruce wrote on Facebook that Tinubu needs to employ more madmen, I said, what is this man up to? Ben Murray Bruce, that's the way he thinks. He said, Cardoso is a madman, a central bank man. See what he has done to this, how he has sanitized the. What he means is men who stand out. He then mentioned Nuhu Ribadu. People who are ready to tell their mother, Mom, you caused it.
And we can.
Do you understand? I'm now a wicked convert. Because I got lost and got into, what is it called? Day and the rest of it. All the roads are tarred.
Okay, Chukwudi, we have to let you go.
The finance minister.
Nigeria can work
Chukwudi,
if you and I make up our minds to make it work.
Chukwudi, we have to let you go. There are a lot of things we could talk about. The defense plan. There's also the crackdown on green areas. And of course, the demand by regional. But of course, we cannot.
One day I'm going to demand that you give me 2 hours on this program.
Hopefully, we will get to that.
Do you know the thing there is, if we give the two of you 2 hours, may not be enough. Let's make this Good Morning Nigeria work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bless you guys.
Well, we'll take a break now. When we return, the conversation will commence. Stay with us.
Every day, across forests, highways, towns and villages, brave men and women stand watch so that Nigeria can sleep. They leave their families behind, confront danger head-on, and make sacrifices many of us will never see. Yet, the enemies of our nation continue their assault. They target our children. They murder innocent citizens. They force families from their homes. They turn thriving communities into places of fear and uncertainty. Their goal is simple: to break our spirit, divide our people, and steal the future of our nation. But Nigeria is stronger than terror. As we demand greater accountability, stronger security measures, and more effective action from those entrusted with our safety, we must also play our part. Support our security forces. Salute their gallantry. Stand with those who stand for us. If you see something, say something. Let us be our brother's keeper. We must never surrender to fear, despair, or hopelessness. This is not the time for division, not by tribe, not by religion, not by region, not by political party. Because terror recognizes no ethnicity, no faith, and no ideology. Its enemy is all of us. And together, united as one people, we can defeat it. For our children, for our communities, for our future, for Nigeria. Join the movement. Stand for our country. Stand for one another. Hashtag Unite Against Terror.
Every great stew comes down to one moment. The moment that decides everything. When the tomato paste meets the oil, fries well, blooms deep red color, and gives off rich aroma. And when it blends well with everything else in the pot, I see it all coming together. New Tasty Tom fries well, blends well, shines in the moment.
My love, you shine so bright.
Every morning is a good time to show love in the way that matters. And showing love begins with breakfast, the first gift of the day to you and your loved ones. Not just any breakfast, but one made with peak milk because it contains vitamins, proteins, and calcium to keep you nourished and ready for the day. Breakfast is love. Show it every morning with the nourishing goodness of Peak evaporated milk.
Peak. Reach for your peak.
History is said. For the first time ever, the world's most prestigious kitchen opened its doors in Nigeria. The heat is real. The steaks are legendary. Our world-class judges, Chef Eros,
remember who you are,
and Chef Stone.
It is almost impossible to impress me, but good luck.
Will guide the nation's finest home cooks to win the ultimate prize of a life-changing 73 million naira. It's the first ever MasterChef Nigeria.
The Financial Services Regulation Coordinating Committee, FSRCC, in collaboration with the National Broadcasting Commission, NBC, wishes to draw the attention of the public to the worrisome increase in the activities of illegal financial operators, IFOs, which threaten public trust and the stability of the Nigerian financial system. The FSRCC and NBC hereby advises the general public to refrain from dealing with unlicensed financial operators who deceive individuals with unrealistically high investment returns. Make sure to verify the licensing status of such companies and schemes on this website. To report any suspicions of illicit financial activities, call CBN 0817-665-7060, SAC 0209-462-1168, 0916-772-3240. Let's work together to uphold the integrity of Nigeria's financial system. Announcer, FSRCC.
The prestigious NTA Television College, widely recognized for its professionalism and excellence in media training, has achieved another significant milestone. In addition to its existing affiliation with Ahmadu Bello University Zaria for the award of a degree in mass communication, the college has now received official approval from the National Board for Technical Education, NBTE, to commence National Diploma, ND programs in mass communication and multimedia. Additional programs are also in progress. Admission requirements: a minimum of 5 O-level credit passes in relevant subjects. For National Diploma ND programs, minimum JAMB admissible score of 100. For degree programs, recommended JAMB score of 180 and above. This is a great opportunity to become part of the college's growing legacy in media and broadcast education. For more information,
visit our website at www.ntatvc.edu.ng or call these following numbers: 0803-838-4343, 0806-980-9897. Announcer Management.
Welcome back to the program. It's still Good Morning Nigeria on the NTA. Now, this morning we are giving our attention to current efforts targeted at rebuilding the country's northeast. But before we get into our conversation, We'd like you to listen to the background report compiled by our correspondent, Ibrahim Belugunda.
10 years after, the Boko Haram insurgency brought unprecedented destruction and displacement to Nigeria's northeast. The region is gradually moving from the emergency response towards reconstruction, recovery, and long-term development. The insurgency, which began in 2009 and intensified the following years, severely disrupted economic activities, education, healthcare, agriculture, transportation, and community life across Borno, Yobe, Adamawa, Bauchi, Gombe, and Taraba states. The World Bank estimates that the conflict affected about 15 million people, with more than 2 million forcibly displaced at the height of the crisis. The 2016 Recovery and Peace Building Assessment also estimated the region's recovery and reconstruction needs at billions of dollars, underscoring the scale of the challenge. The rebuilding process has therefore gone beyond replacing destroyed buildings. It has involved restoring livelihoods, resettling displaced populations, reopening schools and health facilities, reconnecting communities through roads, bridges, and rebuilding confidence and social cohesion. The federal government, the 6 Northeast states, development partners and humanitarian organizations have implemented interventions aimed at moving communities from dependence on humanitarian assistance to sustainable livelihoods. A major institutional response to the insurgency was the establishment of the Northeast Development Commission in 2017 to coordinate rehabilitation, reconstruction, resettlement, and development across the region. The Commission has intervened in the reconstruction of roads, bridges, houses, schools, hospitals, markets, and other public infrastructure, while also supporting the rehabilitation and reintegration of displaced persons and victims of the conflict. The Northeast Stabilization and Development Master Plan 2020 to 2030 provides a long-term framework covering infrastructure, agriculture, education, healthcare, entrepreneurship, industrialization, trade, environmental protection, and peace building. 10 years on, how far has the Northeast come in rebuilding lives and communities? What more needs to be done to restore livelihoods, create jobs, and drive sustainable development? And what should the region expect as the Northeast Development Commission enters the next phase of its 2020-2030 master plan? These and more are the questions guests on Good Morning Nigeria will be answering as we discuss rebuilding the Northeast 10 years after.
Thank you very much, Ibrahim, for that comprehensive background report. Now joining us to speak on the conversation for this morning, rebuilding the Northeast 10 years after. We already have our guest. Let me start with our guest in the studio here, talking about Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Hamisu, a political scientist, researcher, and public affairs analyst who is also a regular on this program. Dr. Hamisu, good morning to you.
Thank you for having me. Good morning. Good morning, Nigerians.
All right. Also joining us in our Maiduguri studio is Professor Ibrahim Umara, HOD, Political Science, University of Maiduguri. Professor Umara, thank you for joining us this morning.
Nice for having me.
All right, let's now turn attention to Yola, where our Maiduguri, also Maiduguri studio. Dr. Umar B. Binder is a social investment specialist, founder, CEO, Binder Knowledge Center International, and of course, he's joining us from Yola in Adamawa State. He's also National Coordinator, NSIP, 2020 to 2023, former SSG Adamawa State via, of course, he's joining us from Yola via Zoom. So we'd like to thank you, Dr. Binder.
Thank you very much.
We also have Professor Abagana Mohammed, who is the head research and planning of the NEDC. He's in our Maiduguri studio. Thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thanks for having me. Good morning, Nigeria.
I'd like to start with you, Professor Mohammed. You know, being the head research and planning department, I think it's very, very appropriate for us to start the conversation with you. And we're looking at 10 years, you know, which is for every, I mean, the 10-year-old, you know, would have been in primary school and getting ready to go to the, you know, GSS1. So it's a long time for us to start to ask some difficult questions away from, you know, the usual rhetorics. And that will be, if we look at all indicators, you know, around poverty, humanitarian needs, around economy and all that. Do you think that the Northeast is far better today than it was 10 years ago?
Hello.
Okay, we're sorry, we're getting things a little bit slow this morning. It does happen. But my question is directed to Professor Abagana Mohammed, who is the head research and planning of the NEDC.
The situations have stabilized. At the height of the insurgency, most places in Borno, the most affected state, are inaccessible, but as of now, I think it's only about few local governments that are inaccessible. So I think we are on the right track, right trajectory. As for the commission, I think we have a master plan. We have reached the halfway mark now. Currently, we are even having midterm evaluation and midterm reviews. So I think so far so good. We have done a lot along the 11 pillars of the master plan, starting with the peaceful society. We've made various interventions in security, you know, along the non-kinetic route. Taking of agriculture, we've also done agricultural support to farmers across the region. In education too, we have established 18 mega schools in each, that is one each in each of the senatorial districts of the 18 senatorial districts that we have in the region. We have established ICT centers to train our teeming youth population in ICT. We have trained so far, I think, thousands of youths, and it's ongoing. So far so good. We have done a lot, and we are continuing to do in the next 5 years of the master plan. If you look at health too, we have touched almost all the health institutions that we have in the region. Currently, we are in the process of rolling out MRI and CT scans across our tertiary health institutions. Of roads and bridges, we have, I think, done about 300 kilometers of roads and bridges, and then I think about 50 of them across the region. Street lights, on this low-hanging fruit, I think we have done almost about 50,000 street lights across the region. Talking of boreholes, we have, I think, done more than 600 solar-powered boreholes across the region. So we have done a lot, but of course, much more needs to be done. But I think we are on the right trajectory, if I can say that.
Yes, Prof, you said you have done a lot when it comes to pillars that you have recorded some progress. But what about the ones which ones are still lagging?
I think the ones that are lagging, if I may say that, is, you know, the thing is in phases. So the master plan is in phases. So it's not actually lagging, but then it depends on the phase that we are in. So the 4 phases are starting with recovery and stabilization. That was from 2020 to 2022, because of course we have a conflict-affected region. So we have to first do that recovery and stabilization. That will be the very first thing. So of course, during that phase, most of the things were to do with peace building, resettlement building, and things like that. in the second phase, which was from 2022 to 2024, that was the renewal phase. People are now being reintegrated, houses being reconstructed to house the IDPs, closing of IDP camps and things like that. We've passed that stage, and we are now trying to see how we can spur on the economic growth in the region. How can we train our teeming youth population? How can we support our SMEs? Right now, we are in talks with the Bank of Industry for a 30 billion naira facility to support SMEs in the region. So we are now going into we are at the end of the expansion phase and starting the sustainable growth phase. This is where we want to attract private capital to come and partner with us in bolstering economic transformation of the region. Yes.
With you, I'm glad you've talked about the quantum of reconstruction and developmental interventions that the NEDC, has undertaken and is undertaken as well. That's quite substantial. But if you look at the 2026 humanitarian assessment, report, it still puts the number of people from that region requiring humanitarian assistance at 5.9 million. So would you say that this construction and development intervention is running ahead, or perhaps not sufficiently, addressing the humanitarian realities on ground at the moment?
Okay, I think that figure was the figure from as at when the Recovery and Peace Building Assessment came out. Right now, I think the figure is less than that, but we still have people that are in need of dire humanitarian needs, possibly because there are some places that are still under the insurgency, mostly in Borno, some parts of Adamawa, and things like that. So, yes, some people do need humanitarian assistance, but that number has reduced drastically. Some places are still not accessible because of the insecurity, but things are getting much better. Things are getting better. We are doing our bit to support with other partners, the state government. So yes, that figure is not that much now. It is reducing. Yes.
Have the exact figure so that we don't keep quoting the 2022 humanitarian assessment figure of 5.9 million. Do we have the exact figure of people in the Northeast region requiring humanitarian needs from your assessment?
I think it should be in maybe, I don't know, maybe within the region of 1 to 2 million. It shouldn't be more than that, really. It shouldn't be more than that across the region.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. Now we come back to the studio. Dr. Amisu, I mean, you've listened to the Prof, highlighting some of the achievement concerning the pillars made so far and some of the things that are left to be done. From your perspective, how well would you say the federal government have been able to align the commission program with the like of NSIP to avoid duplication development in the Northeast?
Well, I think the intervention in the Northeast is well streamlined. And if you cast your mind back to where the Northeast is coming from, it is coming from a background where the region was, said to say, neglected. And that led to a lot of deficits. There was a study that revealed that the region actually receives the least amount in terms of appropriation to the 6 geopolitical zones before the insurgency, coupled with the consequences of the shrinkage of the Lake Chad, which led to desertification, and that equally led to clashes between herders and farmers, reducing lands that are available for cultivation, leading to migration of herders towards south. So the conflict in the south between herders and farmers through the North Central has a connection, a linkage to the Northeast. So when you look at the quantum of the crisis now being compounded by the insurgency, it is even a miracle that the Commission is able to do all of this, because almost all the sectors require interventions. So if you give somebody who is not experienced in development planning, the person will be consumed with the amount of issues that needed to be tackled at the same time, from humanitarian assistance to the environment to absence of infrastructure. By 2015, the Northeastern State Transformation Strategy put together by the Northeastern State governors looked at the historical challenges bedeviling the region before the insurgency. And one of the things that struck me was the conclusion that the Northeast has no special institution like the Lagos Business School. Yes, as basic as, you know, is the professor talking about MRI scans and the rest. Now, I think this is first of its kind that is coming to the Northeast, where these are foregone conclusions in the South-South, for instance, in the North Central, in the Southwest. All of this, they've gone past that very particular stage. So it tells you the level of intervention that is required to even bring the region to some level of parity with other regions in Nigeria. And I think the establishment of the commission is to ensure that there is consistent tackling of the challenges, because it started with PINE, which is Presidential Initiative on the Northeast, and it was like ad hoc. Then it moved to presidential committee on the Northeast Initiative. So it was a committee, and what was required at that point in time were interventions that deliver one, recovery and stabilization to the people, because these are people that are traumatized. They've been chased out of their homes, their livelihood has been destroyed. So the first thing you need to do is to give those people semblance of what? Hope. First, you stabilize them. Then before you talk about what do you do to rebuild, and this is where it becomes dicey and complex, because you're doing humanitarian assistance, and then you are doing security, and then you are doing developmental. And as you are doing all of this, the conflict is ongoing. So yes, whatever is taken to the Northeast will not be a waste, but the need for coordination and alignment, as you said, is very key, so that whatever is being channeled to the Northeast will hit the required target. And I think that is the clarity the Commission has brought, because we must commend the National Assembly for what they did by establishing the Commission. And there was a caveat to what the Commission needed to do. The first was the baseline survey that needed to be undertaken in order to understand what went wrong before the framing of the master plan that the professor mentioned. So it was a big caveat that the Commission cannot escape. So the first thing was understand the issues that led to where we are. And I think the survey was able to give a very good background to say there were historical neglect, which led to a situation, which led to another set of situation that led to violence. And this violence, again, came with its own consequences. So the RPBA, Recovery and Peace Building Assessment undertaken by the World Bank, in collaboration with federal government of Nigeria, put the total losses the region incurred, despite the neglect we're talking about, at 3.5 billion US dollars. That is the total loss. Now we're talking about a region that is disadvantaged, losing economic assets that is estimated to what, 3.5 billion. So it's equivalent to this adage in my dialect, that somebody who is hungry is now afflicted with dysentery. So what is the consequences of that? You all know. So
yes, well, the reason we are having this conversation,
yes,
really, we quite appreciate, you know, the quantum of need, you know, for that region. Yes. I mean, everybody knows, you know, what had happened, yes, how it happened, and the needs of the people, yes, and the continuous, you know, interventions that ought to be made. Yes. But we're also looking at, you know, taking stock, yes, and accountability, yes, you know, of what the interventions that is being, you know, planned into that region to, yes, ensure that, you know, it addresses, like you rightly observed, yes, the, you know, target for which they were meant. Yes. And that's why we're having this conversation after, yes, 10 years. Yes. And I want to bring in Dr. Bindra here. Dr. Bindra, it's good to see you once again. It's just that you're not joining us here live in the studio. My analogy with the 10-year-old boy may not be the appropriate analogy, because a 10-year-old boy would probably grow up in a very stable, peaceful environment. But, you know, growth in an environment that has already been depleted and afflicted with conflict and all that is not, you know, totally, does not totally go the same way. So that might not be quite appropriate. But we are looking at measuring, you know, success, measuring, you know, outcomes. 10 years is enough for us to say, okay, this is, you know, what we have been able to take away. This is what we have been able to add. And I'm just wondering, what should measurement of 10 years of development of the Northeast consist? What should we be looking at? You know, jobs, reduced poverty, you know, number of people, women and children lifted out of poverty. How do you think the Commission should begin to define its success and outcomes?
Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me. This is a very dicey discussion, because if I share my screen very, very briefly, and you will see that in 2017, the Foreign Commonwealth Office of the United Kingdom, they have a map for Nigeria if you intend to visit this country. And this is the map in 2017. So when you see red, the people coming to this country, that your areas at all. And you can see how the Northeast is totally subtracted from that activity. And then notice the tiny little red dot in Zamfara State as at 2017. This is the no-go areas. And then the yellow or amber color, the Commonwealth Foreign Office will advise visitors against all travel, but they should only go there on essential basis. And the green bits are what they call see our travel advice before traveling. So literally in 2017, the whole country is insecure, but the North is terrible. But by 2026, look at what has happened. It is like the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office in the UK has not noticed any change in the Northeast. In fact, from that red dot in Zamfara State, the no-go areas has expanded into Niger State, into Kaduna State, and so on and so forth. And this is very, very terrible. And you can see the transition for that 10 years, from 2017 to 2026, it is a real problem. Now, what this represents, as far as this Commonwealth Office is concerned, is that we have intense despondency in this region. We have large number of people in IDPs and other camps. People are exploding and killing people. We have large number of out-of-school children. Poverty is very, very high. And internationally, we have a very low peace rating. And certainly that is why people don't come to the Northeast region to now come and invest. But we have tried many things to do that. We have tried to face the insurgents and all the insecurity sources directly, gun to gun. We have invested a lot of resources. We have tried formal and informal approaches using the people that are not particularly registered military people, local people, and so on and so forth. And we have put in a lot of incentives to the insecurity and so on. We've arrested people and locked them up and so on and so forth. Yes, there are successes. But I can tell you, as we're discussing now, the challenges are still, particularly for this region, very, very overwhelming. And for me, it seems like we have too many actors acting differently. One, the federal is doing their own, the state is doing their own, the personal people are doing their own, the communities are doing their own. And I can tell you, if you now want to actually record over this last 10 years, very systematically, as we teachers in the university, we like research, we like documentation, we like analysis of numbers and so on and so forth. You will find it very difficult. You can find spots of analysis here and there, but to have a comprehensive analysis so that you can have an evidence-based solution is very weak. And resources are getting tighter. And, poverty is still rising. And we have very intense effects of corruption. And the political dynamics is also not helping us, But we are discussing it, so we have to solve it. So I ask myself sometimes that, is it really possible that we can continue to discuss about this so that we can strategize to get all these actors to work together, the federal government, the international partners, the groups and individuals, the academia, the private sector, the security institutions, the traditional institutions, the non-governmental people, and so on and so on, to work together and, eliminate at least the red spots in Nigeria, both the Northeast and in the Northwest. And I can tell you that we're making progress. Now we don't see girls exploding anyhow. We don't see insurgents moving in and killing people and so on easily, and so on and so forth. But if we now, so that we can be able to talk about not just the Northeast or Northwest intensely, about Nigeria, that we're making progress. This evidence base can show you that we are making progress. And if we deploy more of this synergy of both resources and so on, we may gradually see Nigeria becoming totally free and people can come and visit our country very well. As far as I'm concerned, the opportunity to solve this is there. But as you said, all the effects are there. The poverty is rising and so on and so forth. These bits and pieces that we keep running around, putting it here and there, we must also learn that we must focus, synergize, partner, cooperate, and utilize everybody. And that is why when I was secretary to the government in Adamawa State, the first thing I started with, in addition to the activities that all these stakeholders are doing, you have to document. You have to get evidence. I can see you moving.
For that beautiful, data that you have given us, it now gives us, a better picture of what is happening. You've said that, the region is really worse off now. But what do you think is the missing link, in this intervention? What specifically is the missing link, and why are we not getting, the right, outcomes?
Well, thank you very much. I think, we are doing the best we can, but I think the missing link is that the energies have to come together. Even in physics, when you allow the sun like that to shine on a piece of paper, it will just be nicely warm. But when you put a lens to focus the rays of the sun on a point on the paper, it will burn the paper. That is what we need to do. That synergy, that focus, that working together. This is the Northeast, this is the North, and so we must be able to look at it as a Nigerian problem. The federal government, the state governments, and so on must work on this to say that we must kill it. And like I was saying, what we started doing in Adamawa State was first to say that we need data. And I can tell you, I published this book, and I don't know whether you can see it. I call it Know and Speak to Your Leaders. I collected data on every single politically elected person with their telephone numbers. And I published this book. We printed nearly 15,000 to 20,000, and we shared it to the public so that you can be able to call your leader. But we didn't stop there. We documented all the traditional leaders, from the emirs, from the district heads, from the village heads, from the ward heads. All of them we documented, and we made it available. This makes sure that from the grassroots, everybody is participating. And, you know, there's no time to tell you the effect of this, but we need to see this. The states are doing their best, but I can tell you the synergy is very, very weak. The measurement is very, very weak. This map you see, drawn by the Europeans, we need to draw it ourselves. I tried to find how did they draw that map. I couldn't get the indices. But we need to redraw that map to show that all these investments are not in vain. We need to encourage our people to see that we're making progress. We need to also ensure that human capital development, entrepreneurial development must penetrate our people very well. Without money in your pocket, without skills and competencies in your head, that you are using it on your farm, you are using it in your shop, you are using it to maintain roads, you are using it to be employed and paid, this thing will linger for a very, very long time. This is, for starters, one of the antidotes that can also solve this and solve it very, very quickly.
Dr. Bindi, for that elaborate, data and graphic description that you have given us concerning the situation. Let's bring in Professor Professor Ibrahim Umara, who is the head political science, University of Maiduguri. Prof, you have listened to other guests concerning this conversation, and you are there in Borno, Maiduguri, at least in touch with the communities, with the people, and you can feel them. You know what they want. You know where they are lagging. So tell us, what does rebuilding actually mean for the people? Is it infrastructure? Is it peace of mind or livelihoods? Tell us.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians. I think I have heard the conversations that have gone, and that when you are talking about the processes of the recovery in general, they are generally categorized into 4 or 5 main different sectors, and they're based on the practical experiences on the ground. First, it had to have a sort of social cohesion among the fractured communities, because there is a deeply rooted suspicion between people of the same community who may have the opportunity to flee before their communities being invaded by the insurgents, which we call the escapees. And then those who were not able to make it and were occupied by the insurgents were called remainees. And then you have also another category that is called the returnees, those who have escaped, but after the state made its presence, they went back there. So you have 3 categories of people from the same community, the same victims, but as a result of socio-psychological trauma, their nature of social cohesion tend to be somehow fractured. And then the first thing that had happened was to build the peace. And then in the process of building the peace, bringing these people together to talk to one another to really understand the situations and the circumstances. I really appreciate the Director of Research and Statistics of our NEDC, and I appreciate those in the studios as well as my former SSG in Adamawa State. They also have pointed it, but the most important thing is without the peace, without people, making people to understand, for them to own the processes, I think it's something much more different. Then second, after making people to talk to one another, you need to have a sort of infrastructural development, like the restoration of the clinics, the schools, the rehabilitation of borehole, and then the fractured infrastructure such as the bridges as you are showing. And then the third category is, again, as far as Maiduguri is concerned, while the issues of recovery is taking place and NEDC is trying its own possible best, we were now devastated by very much unanticipated flood disaster, which had take us back to ground zero again, that really make the NEDC to still come in, forcing the humanitarian agencies, the federal government, and then the state government to really rebuild what was already built for the reconstruction processes before being destroyed by the disaster. And then lastly, the coordination in terms of security. All these states, particularly Borno, I think most of the income that they are getting both from within the internally generated and the subvention from the federal government or international development partners intervention, substantial amount of resources generated by the state is expended on security partnership. For instance, in Borno State, we have Borno State Security Trust Fund, and then this provide enabling platforms for the mobility, patrol, and other supports that are necessary for the security, apart from the local vigilante, the civilian joint task force, and then the hunters group that was supported by the state. These efforts, the state, the federal, and then the international development partners enable the people first to understand each other, two, to really identify the actual root causes of the problem, and then three, they now have a sort of renewed cohesion and understanding, and then four, right now as I'm talking to you now, people are in their farmland, and then there are no instances of abduction or denial for having access to farmland or killing associated with farmers. So as a result of that, we can say there is a massive improvement, and there is an improvement in the confidence of the people on the Nigerian state, and there is a deeply entrenched commitment by the NEDC in continuing the efforts that they are making, the efforts of the state government, the efforts of the federal government. We are all appreciative. And then if we are talking about human development capital, the universities are there. The federal government have already established Federal University of Agriculture and Entrepreneurship right now in Bama. The Kashim Ibrahim University in Maiduguri is also trying its best. The University of Maiduguri is having new faculties, and then in partnership with Northeast Development Program, Northeast Development Commission, we now have Center for Counter-Violent Extremism that is hosted in the University of Maiduguri. They are sponsoring it. They are making effort. But I want Nigerians to understand the crescendo of the actual crisis.
Mara, but I would still, before we come back to the studio, engage Dr. Hamisu, I'd like to ask you, in political science, there is no one theoretical framework to addressing a problem. I mean, you have so many others. Would you say that the reason why the Northeast particularly has remained, the challenges, have remained, or we've not seen the quantum of outcomes that we're expecting, it's probably because we are applying, one reconstruction template, to suit the realities, of the states, of the 6 different states that make up the Northeast. Northeast is not a homogeneous region. I mean, the challenges confronting Adamawa, post-conflict challenges may not be the same with, Yobe or Bauchi or, the other states. So what do you think about that, about the reconstruction template that has been applied to addressing those post-conflict challenges?
Thank you. What the template developed, even from the instance, for Borno and Yobe, they are much more separate. with Adamawa. Both Gombe and the Taraba were not all that affected as far as the insurgency is concerned. The level of impact that they had is much more minimal when compared to the Bay states of the Adamawa, Adamawa, Yobe, and Borno. That is number one. Number two, the peculiarity of Taraba is not per se the insurgency, rather uneasy relationship between the same tribal groups, especially in around Wukari, that had created a deep rift between some nationalities or religious ideologies and whatsoever, which is much more different. For Taraba is also, for Adamawa is different, cannot be compared to that of the Adamawa. For Gombe is only a tussle on the chieftaincy. For Bauchi, it is the relatively some sort of peaceful area when compared to either Yobe. Even Yobe itself has a sort of spillover effect with areas that are flanking the Borno axis. But going back to what Dr. Hamisu make mention of within the theoretical perspective, one, the people in that region, particularly as far as Borno is concerned, 90% are farmers, and then out of this farming profession, whatever that has been produced from the agricultural proceeds are the ones that are engaged in extension, consumption, exchange, and then the transportation of this that have punctuated the proliferation of market days as typical of Africa. Throughout the market days, each zone has its own specific days that substantially employ the people, and then this one was also followed by pastoralism. Now, the recession of the lake, as was already mentioned, had contributed it. And then second, apart from the recession of the lake, I think the irresponsiveness of some administrations by neglecting the rural communities, rural areas for the supply of basic amenities such as water, and then the healthcare needs, allow some people to take advantage to mobilize sentiment against the established state, which led to partially what I call misunderstanding of the actual causes of the insurgency. But the template and the blueprint of the Northeast Development Commission tend to focus on Borno, the principle of the northeastern region itself, because Maiduguri was the capital of the entire northeastern states, and then anything that affects Borno really tend to spiral to the other states of the particular region. In terms of that, I think they have done a very wonderful work, and then still is ongoing. But theoretically, as you said, there's what you call domino effect. The domino effect, historically, culturally, and socially, it boomerang across not only the region, it will even spill over up to Plateau and to even Benue states. So these are the things that need to be coordinated to put in place. But I am telling you for now, they have succeeded. There is an improvement. We really have the hope. And then today, and present situation is much more different from the previous situations. People have access to their communities. People move. Some of the markets have already resumed. Agriculture is resuming. Pastoralism is resuming. And then as far as peace is concerned, Maiduguri is one of the most peaceful cities in Nigeria. And they are doing very good work, and I think they will continue for the near future, to continue from wherever they stop.
Thank you very much, Prof. Maiduguri. Well, we pray that the peace will last and it will continue, and the rebuilding process also will be a success. Let's come back to the studio. Dr. Amisu, you've listened to the conversation so far, and you've been part of it. But we know that politics also is often affects development when it comes to rebuilding because of the political interest. Yes. So tell us the political risk that are likely or that still threatens sustained rebuilding, especially with the elections and changing administration that is ongoing right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. Before then, I like to speak to my older brother's presentation, Dr. Binder.
Dr. Binder.
I think the last time we met with him was in Adama when he was still the SSG. But before then, we were together with him while he was at NOTAB in Abuja here. So I respect his intellectual prowess and what he has been doing to contribute to his community. He's right in his presentation in some certain ways, but I want us to open our minds to the framing of narrative. While we were working at the presidential committee, there was a conflict, and the conflict was conflict of reporting. I choose to term it the conflict of reporting because each actors have their motives and their interests and whatever they want to pursue. We were lucky that some states were bold and courageous enough because they learned their lessons from Borno.
Absolutely.
You know, when the insurgency started, we never had the understanding of world politics and how these things work. So in Borno, as people were trooping out, escaping the insurgency, the international organizations were just gathering them into camps. Okay, at a point, the people wanted to go back. That was when a caveat emerged that the people must go back in safety and dignity, which means no bomb should explode before they go back, which means they can be kept there for as long as possible. Learning from that experience, Adamawa and Yobe refused to open camps. And the people were taken in by the safe communities. And that saved us that grotesque pictures of having to show people intent in order to raise more funds. And we continue to recycle the same numbers internationally, while the people on the ground are saying this is the reality. And that is why we're having that map that is showing. For instance, in the last 7 years, Bama was back. More than 7 years now. Bama was open a week after that. I visited Bama. And the people went back. That was in 2018 or thereabout. So that road is open. Now, if you're talking about Marte, these are no-go areas before. But today, people are plying their business. Now, the Commonwealth map is not recognizing that very particular progress. It's still static. It means nothing has changed. Now, the other thing again is, as my brother pointed out, there is a very big problem and big challenge in the Northeast, which is the challenge of capacity. And as I said, it was part of the challenges that led to the insurgency. I remember there was a study that was sponsored by the NEDC, which is region-wide capacity. What is the capacity of the Northeast in terms of rebuilding itself? And one of the things that came out from that study that I know was the lack of capacity by state agencies to generate data. So no matter how much is sunk into the region, producing data that will reflect what has been achieved is a challenge. Now, and that is why when you're talking about development in the Northeast and what has been achieved, the INGOs have data, nuanced data, because they know the importance of data, and they make effort to gather data and publish data. So the reportage of the Northeast in terms of what has been achieved and the quantum of statistics that are out there, they are at variance because of this very particular challenge. So if there is anything that needed to be done as soon as possible and practicable, is to up the capacity of MDAs to generate data and ensure that data is not just viewed as numbers representing whatever, but integral part of the narrative. Because if, for instance, as Dr. Binder flashes the map just now, Nigeria Army has its own map showing liberated areas in where business has returned, normalcy has returned. For instance, you know, the entire architecture of Borno State and the Northeast is agriculture. If you look at it in all ramification, because as you said, and that brings me to the issue of the differential in terms of challenges.
Yes.
You know, when you look at Northeast again, you'll be amazed. People see Northeast as more or less a poverty-stricken area that is not endowed. But if you take your time to study the Northeast, you come to see the handiwork of God. For instance, in Borno, you cannot farm yam, right? In Taraba, you can farm yam, right? Because of the differential in terms of rainfall. And because some areas are endowed, some other areas are not endowed, and because of the expanse of land, that led to three fundamental things that if you have them in the Northeast, you will say, okay, there is progress. One, road network that evacuate produces from areas of endowment to areas that are less endowed. And markets, because I wish I can display the map. There is a connection because the Northeast is a gateway to the Sahel. So it's bordering more than 4 countries: Cameroon, Niger, Chad. Yeah. And from there you can even access Central Africa Republic. You can access Satomi. Now, and let me show us the linkage from Chad, and that is why Maiduguri is like the bridge linking the Sahel, and Nigeria down to south. So the markets again are important in addition to the roads, because these are infrastructure that allows what? The aggregation and circulation, economic transaction. During the insurgency, a bank, I know of a bank that recorded 9 billion naira transaction. It was at the peak of the insurgency. You know why? Because it is a hub for international trade. So the choice of Maiduguri by the insurgent was not mere accident. It is meant to cut the lifeline that supplies even Nigeria, because it moves through, for instance, if you say Cameroon from Adamawa, it comes through Mubi. That is the entry port, right? In Maiduguri, more than 7 entry points to Chad, right? Then from Taraba through Gembu, you're still going to enter Cameroon. Then from Yobe, you are going to Niger. Now, the inverse relationship between that region, Nigeria, to the south is that most of the grains, most of the fishes, most of the cows that we consume, even down in Lagos, come from these countries: Niger, Cameroon, Chad, through these states that are bordering them, down to Damaturu, down to Kano, from Kano to Abuja, or through Niger, from there to either Lagos, and if they're coming through Abuja, to Lokoja. From Lokoja, they can access south-south, southeast, southwest. And because of the port, again, imported products usually come that way. So you could see the interconnectivity.
Can I just pause you at this moment?
Yes.
Interconnectivity. You will continue. We'll just like to take a short break. I mean, we have to pay our debts. Yes, when we come back, you conclude this thought, and I'll just take you on another question that is related. Please, let's take a break.
TerraCube, unwrap joy, unleash taste.
I've got a willingness to contribute positively to the well-being of my fellow citizen. As a Nigerian, I'm a provider, helper, listen to me. As I listen to you, I'm a born winner and I cherish security. As a Nigerian, I'm a real Nigerian, born Nigerian, a resilient Nigerian. I live by the citizens' code. I'm a real Nigerian, accountable Nigerian, a caring Nigerian. I live by the citizens' code.
Green, white, green, oh I pledge my dear country. I'm embodied with observance and courtesy. There is nothing in this world above me, if no be God. Pushing against all odds till my goals are attained. Nigerian spirit, Nigerian dream. Nigerian spirit, Nigerian dream. I know if you forget Nigerian promise to me.
I am reliable. Oh, I know I'm responsible for my actions. I am strong, healthy. Can't you see I am blessed? I'm a real Nigerian, born Nigerian, a resilient Nigerian. I live by the citizens' code. I'm a real Nigerian, accountable Nigerian, a caring Nigerian. I live by the citizens' code. I'm a real Nigerian, born Nigerian, a resilient Nigerian. I live by the citizens' code. I'm a real Nigerian, accountable Nigerian, a caring Nigerian. I live by the citizens' code. I'm a real Nigerian, accountable Nigerian, a caring Nigerian. I live by the citizens' code. I'm a real Nigerian, accountable Nigerian, a caring Nigerian. I live by the citizens' code.
Moving Nigeria to greatness.
Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.
The Renewed Hope Initiative RHI presents the RHI Green Nigeria Challenge. Go green today for a greener tomorrow. This national competition is in 3 categories. The household category is a tree planting competition amongst 11 frontline states in northern Nigeria. Each participating household in Adamawa, Borno, Bauchi, Gombe, Jigawa, Kano, Katsina, Kebbi, Sokoto, Yobe, and Zamfara states will plant a minimum of 1 tree to qualify, with a video evidence of before and after the tree planting exercise. 20 million naira would be awarded to the best household. Submission deadline is 20th December 2026. Community category will see local governments, local communities, schools, and NGOs reclaim and transform degraded or abandoned areas such as dump sites, landfills, parks, and their likes into green, vibrant gardens, parks, and eco-friendly spaces. 50 million naira would be awarded to the overall best community group. Deadline for submission is 15th July 2026. States category will have all states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory, excluding Enugu State, have a chance to address the growing threats to environmental sustainability and cleanliness. States will be judged based on the number of trees planted on major roads and inner streets and how clean they are. 100 million naira will be awarded to the best performing state. Already, Enugu State has 100 million naira for being RHI's model green state due to its greenery and cleanliness. Video evidence must be submitted by participating states on or before 20th December 2026. All entries must be directed to RHI Office, State House, Abuja, or email rhi.greenchallenge@statehouse.gov.ng. RHI Green Nigeria Challenge. Go green today for a greener tomorrow.
Welcome to Skill Up Nigeria, Industrial Training Fund's television program celebrating innovation, craftsmanship, and the skilled hands shaping our nation's future. Join us and share in our over 50-year journey of empowering Nigeria's workforce and impacting the nation's human resources. Tune in and connect with experts and skilled workers sharing real stories that inspire. Every Saturday at 10 p.m. on the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA. Skill Up Nigeria, powered by ITF.
All right, welcome back to the program. Good morning, Nigeria. Just before we went on break, Dr. Amisu was, going to conclude his thoughts, and then we'll read out the messages that we have. Dr. Amisu, please. You stopped at the point of interconnectivity.
Yes, interconnectivity, and that is one interesting thing about the development plan. There is a whole pillar known as interconnectivity by air, by road, by water, as it affects commerce and movement of people. So when maybe the commission is saying they've built 50 markets or they've rebuilt 50 markets, to some persons it's not an achievement because they don't know the important role the markets are playing in the aggregation of goods that are being transported to Kano, to Lagos, to Ibadan. By the time they're saying that they've built bridges to reconnect farming communities, to somebody in Surulere that is not used to that, is a given thing, it's not an achievement. But to the people that are concerned, they know the importance of those bridges because it's the source of their poverty. So when my brother was talking, Dr. Binder, and he said there is a rising poverty. Yeah, it's true. It's something that is global. It's what we are complaining in Nigeria, where there is no even insurgency. So you're talking about moving our people from despondency to hope to rebuilding. So it takes a whole lot of things, from infrastructure, as we said, like the markets that we aid trade, like going back to farm, as Professor Umara said, like connecting those communities again through those bridges. And if the military is celebrating one single achievement that I will point out, that they are able to keep the economic artery of the Northeast open. And which is the economic artery of the Northeast? The highway from Borno to either Bauchi, from Borno through Yobe to Kano, from Borno connecting Chad, and then if you take Meduguri, Adamawa, Mubi, Mubi was at a point occupied by the insurgents. So these are strategic locations that have been marked by these insurgents. For the fact that these places are open today, I think the military could say they've achieved something, even if the map is not recognizing that. Yes.
Just 1 minute before I bring in Professor Abba Ghana. You talked about the returns.
Yes.
Was it voluntary or they were, and is it a dignified environment that they returned to?
As far as I know, I think under the current governor, Bama was substantially rebuilt. I think if there was anything that earned the current governor his ticket as the governor of Borno State was the work he did as the commissioner of RRR by rebuilding. But what I know of him, he's a very courageous person. He's a very fearless person. If the military should capture a place today, by tomorrow be rest assured that Professor Zulum will be there. And the first thing they will do is to rebuild those communities. Now, let us not forget the politics that has really hindered the return. The people in the camps are willing to return, but again, the international donor organizations realize that if they empty the camp, it will be difficult for them to raise money back home to continue their work.
I hope it's just not an allegation, because
no, it was.
No.
Anyway, let's
hold on, Demola.
Demola,
please hold on. Demola, please hold on, because this is a very serious allegation you have made.
Yes.
And it's on a national public TV.
Yes,
and you are a doctor.
I know exactly what I'm saying because I was on the field. I'm still researching it, and I know what has happened. Assuming, and that is what I said, assuming, despite the pace that has been attained in Yobe and Adamawa, if those camps were open, they will still remain in the camp, because the caveat is safety and dignity. They have to return, which means that no bomb must explode again before these people will go back. But again, bombs can explode, for instance, in Kwali, which is far from the city center. And if the city center is safe, the people can return to a city center. That is the only way the recovery can start.
All right.
So we have to understand this.
So we take that this is born out of the research that you have made.
Of course, I stand by what I have said.
Thank you for that clarification. Let's bring in Professor Abba Ghana Mohammed, who is the head research Planning NEDC. We have questions from some of our viewers which we would like you to respond to before we continue with our own questions. And this one is from Alaji Garko Karusite in Abuja here. And he says, good morning. Rebuilding the Northeast is a welcome development due to the security challenges that bedeviled the region for almost 2 decades now. Thank God now that there is Northeast Development Commission. The commission should do the needful by making sure structures are put in place to take care of institutions that will cater for the citizens, including people living in refugee camps. Now, this one is from Daya Nafwang from Jos. He said, NEDC has indeed made huge achievement, but my concern is how to bring an end to insecurity entirely. You want to respond to that, Professor Abagana?
Thanks very much for these questions. For the first one about how we can support the reintegration of returnees back to their communities. The Commission is actively engaged in that. For example, in Maiduguri, or rather I would say in Mafa local government, which is at the outskirts of Maiduguri, we've built 1,000 housing for IDPs, returnees from in warm community. It's a lively community now. We've provided boreholes, schools, and a dispensary for them. So we are engaged in this kind of effort across the region, in each of the states, and the other 5 states. I think we are in the currently building about 500 housing units in each of these. So we are actively doing that in housing. The other one is a bit more complicated because we are not the only actors in the security framework. And what makes it a little bit more complicated is that just like as has been said by Dr. Hamisu, we have international borders, and these are very porous borders, and that is actually why we have the multinational joint task force headquartered in Chad, N'Djamena. So it is the international nature of this conflict, so it makes it very, very fluid, very dynamic. So, and it has various moving parts, but I think the national, our army is up to the task. They've achieved a lot. We, as an interventionist institution, we have supported the army and other security institutions in the non-connected domain, and we are continuing to do that, and our support to the state governments in how we can build a lasting peace for our people. Thank you.
Let's bring in Professor Umara quickly before we go to Dr. Bindri. Dr. Bindri, there are so many questions that you may wish to, jot down when we come to you. We'd like you to respond to the issue, some of the issues that Dr. Hamisu raised about data, data and the role of international partners, and also I'd like you to, look at you talked about the need for coordination. I mean, so many agencies are doing a lot of things. NEMA is there, the state government, you have international partners and development partners, you have the private sector. Who should coordinate all of these humanitarian interventions, such that we have one recovery strategy? Please, these are some of the questions for Dr. Bindru when we come back. But let's come back to Professor Umara. NEDC says it has invested a lot of money in health infrastructure, MRI machines and CT scanners and all of that. But from your vintage point, is this actually impacting on health outcomes?
Yeah, definitely it does, But before I go to the questions that you just raised, I think let me go back quickly to reconfigure the nature of the region itself. Apart from the Northeast and particularly Borno State connecting the Central African states to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you have to remember the historical fact that from Ethiopia down to this part was former part of Borno Empire. So you call it complete contiguity. You may be directly describe Chad, Cameroon, and Niger conjoined with Nigeria through Borno via Lake Chad, but at the same time, it is contiguous with Central African Republic, with Northern Republic, Democratic Republic of Congo. It is contiguous with Central African Republic, with Southern Sudan, with Northern Sudan, with Ethiopia, with Libya, with Algeria, with Mali, and then with even Mauritania. All these were part and parcel historically of the Borno Empire. And then the flow of goods from all across Nairobi, Kenya, down to this part of the world is still taking place. So when you are talking about porosity of the border, you have to consider the historical and then the cultural connection between these people before now. Second, as to the issue as to whether those IDPs are returning willingly or otherwise, let me tell you, before the insurgency, those people that were kept in the IDP camp alone were capable of hiring more than 200 people for them to work in their farmland. So the fact that you kept them at IDP camp and giving them handout really constrained their ability to expand the frontiers of production capacity. They were even in haste. In fact, some people, if not because government forced them to remain in the relatively safer area, they even wanted to go back despite the occupation of their territories by the insurgents. And therefore, the returning of these people to their respective communities that were cleared by the government is voluntarily, and they are even anxious to go back. And then third, as to whether the Northeast Development Commission is sensitively responding to the needs of the people. Yes, of course, you can see that bridge. That bridge is in Forigal-Timari axis. It is a 9-span bridge, and it was desperately needed by the people because it connects the GRA down Galtimari to the Bama axis that connect Nigeria with Cameroon via University of Maiduguri. So this is just one of the infrastructural activities. But either the scanning center, the skill acquisition center, and the other infrastructural development, as well as support to hospital, support to water supply, and then the, is it what we call it, skill acquisition technique that the NEDC had embarked on is really sensitive to the sensibilities of the people. You had him building up to 1,000 capacity community to the people in Gom. This is just one. You have very many other things. Besides that, I want the viewers to remember that prior to the present situation, only Maiduguri and Jere were under the effective control of the Nigerian state, apart from Biu Emirate. All others were effectively under the occupation of the insurgents. So the Nigerian armed forces were able to push them back, and for now, if not because it wasn't cleared by the security, I cannot tell you a territory that is under the control of the insurgents. So wherever you see it was liberated by the Nigerian state, you see either the state government or the federal government through the Northeast Development Commission directly intervene. First, by providing water supply. Second, by providing the drugs that are necessary for the clinics. Or third, by supporting the educational institutions and beefing up the security apparatuses. Now, forget it about all this that you already mentioned. Let's look at the connectivity. The Central Bank of Nigeria, through its own bullion, give a statistics. Apart from Lagos, Maiduguri is the highest city that has exchange transaction in Nigeria. Highest exchange transaction outside Lagos, Maiduguri. And then second, Maiduguri was one of the rapidly developing cities in Nigeria aside Lagos. And then,
Professor Mara, thank you. I'm afraid we're running out of our allotted time. We'll have to allow Dr. Binder to also have his say so that we can come back and wrap up nicely. Dr. Binder. Hello.
I say, let me quickly use some slides to answer some of these questions. What needs to be done? You see, look, these 6 states, globally, if you want to change things and make sure that it's vibrant, you will look at the critical infrastructure that will drive the socio-economic development, transportation, energy, communication, human capital and employment, and other social things. And I can tell you that in the Northeast, when you look at the region very carefully, these infrastructures are very, very weak. The roads are not very good. They're just spot here, well here. There's no rail that is working there. The power in this region is very, very epileptic. The communication is very weak, despite the fact that we have high potential for agriculture and livestock, and potable water is flooding everywhere. And this decadence should not be accepted, and something has to happen. Now, if you go to the Northeast, you start from Bauchi. As you go from Bauchi to Yobe, Yobe to Borno, Borno to Adamawa, Adamawa to Taraba, Taraba to Gombe, Gombe to Bauchi, it's only one road. It is actually the largest roundabout in Africa. And this is some of the infrastructure. This is how you see it. It is, you can see all the economic activities are happening mostly on roads of this nature. And this has to be changed. And I believe that we have the tools and energy. The universities we have, the professors you can see, even on this platform, the technical people, the engineers, that local capacity is there. The political strength, I can remember when I was governor, when I was SSG, my governor was supporting me, pushing me to do these things. And the current governor there is supporting. You can see what Zulum is doing and all these governors. And additionally, they must also not just be tackling these things. They must rebrand the region deliberately with commitments and endurance. And it is this energy that will now show. Why can't we say that the road, that roundabout in the Northeast, should be like this? Why can't we have a railway like that? Why can't we have a transmission line that is rotating around the region? Why can't we lay fiber optics and so on? So this is, I believe we can do, and the way to do it is that if it's done, you can measure it. So literally, in addition to the actions that you see on the table, there are other intellectual things to be done, and I'm sure NEDC is doing fantastically well. I don't even know how the young man is actually sleeping with his team. But the problems are too big. Synergy and partnership is the main ingredient. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Bindi, for being concise there. There's so much, so many things needs to be done, and because of time. But let's bring in Professor Abagana, at least to have his parting shots. One of the major highlights of that master plan is that of stabilization, which is focused on preventing a relapse. So, have you been able to build enough, community resilience so that we do not have to avoid a return to the crisis?
Well, thanks very much for that. Just as Prof has mentioned about these different classes of people, that is the returnees, the escapees, the remains. It is about building profession. We have done various programs, like there's a Sulhu program we've done and other things in order to build that social cohesion. It's not just a one-off thing. It is something that we're doing continuously. We've supported returnees with, life starter packs. So we are doing a lot, and we continue to partner with the Borno State government in this regard. So it's something that we're currently doing and will continue to do. Yes.
Professor Abagana Mohammed, as the head research and planning, NEDC. He joined us from Maiduguri. Thank you so much for giving us an update. Also, we want to thank Professor Ibrahim Umara, HOD, Political Science, University of Maiduguri, who also joined us from Maiduguri studio. Thank you so much. We want to also thank Dr. Umar Bindi, Social Investment Specialist, Founder, CEO, Bindi Knowledge Center International, Yola in Adamawa State, and National Coordinator, who joined us from Adamawa via Zoom. Thank you, Professor Bindi. Thank you, Doc. Thank you, Doctor, for your graphic illustration. And the last but not the least in the studio, regular Dr. Abdurrahman Abu Amisu, political scientist, researcher, and public affairs analyst. Thank you so much for your perception this day. Thank you.
Yes, and also thank you, Malam Gariko from Karu site, and always sending us your messages, and also the sender from Jos. And to you, the viewer, thank you as always. Thank you for joining us. Do join us again, same time tomorrow on the same channel. I am Claire Adelabu Abdulrazak. Bye-bye for now.
And I'm Ademola. You have a lovely day.